In the mid-19th century, a wild idea took hold. What if we could string a wire across the vast Atlantic Ocean? It seemed impossible. But a group of visionaries dared to dream. They wanted to connect two continents with a single cable. Before the cable, news traveled slowly. A letter from London to New York took weeks. Important information crawled across the ocean on ships. The transatlantic cable promised to change all that. It would allow messages to zip across the ocean in minutes, not weeks. Laying a cable across the stormy Atlantic would be a monumental task. It would require new technology, brave sailors, and a lot of money. The laying of the transatlantic cable was one of the great engineering feats of the 19th century, and it all started with a simple idea to connect two continents with a single wire. Planning to lay a cable across the Atlantic was no small feat. It required years of preparation, careful study, and a fair bit of guesswork. The first challenge was mapping the ocean floor. In the 1850s, much of the Atlantic was still a mystery. Enter Matthew Fontaine Maury, an American naval officer and oceanographer. Maury collected data from ship captains and whalers. He used this information to create detailed maps of the Atlantic. These maps showed a relatively flat area between Newfoundland and Ireland. This became known as the Telegraphic Plateau. It was the perfect place to lay a cable. The planners had to figure out how to make a cable that could survive the harsh ocean environment. It needed to be strong enough to withstand the pressure of deep water. The planning stage took years, but it was crucial to the project's eventual success. Laying the transatlantic cable was a battle against the elements. The Atlantic Ocean is notoriously rough. Storms can whip up at a moment's notice. The engineers had to find a way to lay the cable in all kinds of weather. One of the biggest challenges was paying out the cable. If it went too fast, it would snap under its own weight. If it went too slow, it would pile up on the ocean floor. The engineers designed special brakes to control the speed. The ship had to maintain a steady speed in all conditions. The first cables were too weak. They often broke under the strain of laying or retrieving. The engineers had to develop stronger cables. The cable had to stretch for nearly 2,000 miles across the ocean floor, and if something went wrong, repairs would be nearly impossible. The transatlantic cable project drove innovation in many fields. One key area was cable design. The first cables were simple affairs. They consisted of a copper core wrapped in gutta percha. But these proved too weak and too prone to signal loss. Engineers had to develop new designs. They came up with a cable that had multiple layers. At its heart was a strand of copper wires. This was wrapped in several layers of gutta percha. Then came a layer of tarred hemp. Finally, the whole thing was wrapped in spiral iron wires. This design was stronger and better at transmitting signals. The project also required new ships with huge tanks to hold the cable. These innovations paved the way for modern long-distance communication. Visionaries and pioneers, the minds behind the project. The transatlantic cable project was the brainchild of many brilliant minds. But a few key figures stand out. First among these was Cyrus West Field. Field was an American businessman who became obsessed with the idea of a transatlantic cable. He raised money, organized expeditions, and never gave up, even in the face of repeated failures. Another key figure was Charles Tilston Bright. Bright was a British engineer who served as chief engineer on the first cable-laying expeditions. Bright's technical expertise was crucial to the project's eventual success. On the scientific side, William Thomson, later known as Lord Kelvin, played a vital role. Thomson was a brilliant physicist who developed many of the instruments used in the project. The transatlantic cable was truly a team effort, bringing together the best minds from both sides of the Atlantic. From weeks to seconds, revolutionizing global communication. The successful laying of the transatlantic cable in 1866 changed the world overnight. Suddenly, messages could cross the Atlantic in minutes instead of weeks. This had profound effects on business, diplomacy, and everyday life. For businesses, the cable was a game changer. Stock prices could be transmitted almost instantly between London and New York. This created a truly global financial market for the first time. Merchants could order goods from overseas with much less delay. They could respond quickly to changes in supply and demand. The cable also transformed diplomacy. Before, important messages between governments could take weeks to arrive. With the cable, diplomats could communicate in near real time. Even everyday life was affected. The world seemed to shrink, and a new era of global communication had begun. Echoes of the past, the cable's lasting legacy. The transatlantic cable laid the foundation for our modern connected world. It was the first step in creating a global communication network. Today, we take instant global communication for granted, but it all started with that first cable stretched across the ocean floor. The cable project also spurred technological innovation. Many of the techniques developed for laying and maintaining undersea cables are still used today. The project pushed the boundaries of electrical engineering and signal processing. These advances paved the way for later technologies like the telephone and the internet. The legacy of the transatlantic cable can be seen in today's fiber optic cables. They serve the same purpose, connecting the world and making it a smaller place. The story of the transatlantic cable is more than just a tale of technological triumph. It's a story about human ambition and the power of connection. The cable brought people closer together in ways that were previously unimaginable. It changed our understanding of time and distance. Today we live in a world of instant global communication. We can video chat with someone on the other side of the planet. We can send emails that arrive in seconds. We can stream movies from servers thousands of miles away. All of this traces its roots back to that first transatlantic cable. The project faced many setbacks, but the visionaries behind the project never gave up. They kept trying, learning from each failure, until they finally succeeded. The transatlantic cable reminds us that with vision, perseverance, and ingenuity, we can connect the world in ways that once seemed impossible.